Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world, one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity. Helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
There's a better life if I could be debt-free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.
Hello and welcome to The Money Doctor. I'm Dr. Frances Rayam, president of Power Down Debt, a positive debt management company. And my guest today is Peter Rosskothen from the Delaney and Log Cabin House and D Hotel, which I just love the name of, D Hotel.
It's like W, we're with a D.
It is. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So you're the owner of these establishments, and I was reading through your bio, and I always thought when I met you that somehow you were dropped into there and you ran these businesses. You've got a lot of background behind you. So can you give me some idea of where you started and how you ever ended up at the point that you're at now?
Well, thanks for the lot of background. It sounds like I'm really old, and I am not that old.
Experienced, not old.
I think like most of us, you start with a specific career in mind and you end up in a different career. I grew up in a business. I grew up in a hotel business. I was in public relations. I organized activities in a resort environment, so I got the volleyball games going, that kind of stuff. And from there, I moved to a restaurant company and helped them with the buying while I was in college. I went to school for finance. I really wanted to be a stockbroker. That was my dream. And I really never got out of the business. So I kind of stayed in a business, worked in a business, started my first business when I was 24 years old. And sold that a few years later, and then started this business, the Log Cabin Delaney House, and now the D Hotel.
Amazing. So you went to school for finance, and in Colombia? In
Colombia, yeah. But I obviously I'm in the States now, and I kind of followed a girl.
Yeah.
So she went to Cornell. The closest I could go to was UMass. So I finished my finance study in UMass. And did a little bit of, I never finished a degree in hotel restaurant management, but I was trying to get a second degree for a while, and then life got busy.
So this is your wife, Linda, I'm assuming?
No. My wife I met after.
Oh, really? And this is your wife, and you have two daughters together?
We have two daughters, yeah. I met my wife, and that girl I followed just kind of went by the wayside.
Her job was just to get you here.
Sure.
And you've been a resident of South Hadley since 1986?
Ever since I moved to the States, I've been in South Hadley, yes.
Yeah. 1986?
1986.
I think, yeah. See, I read up on
Good.
you.
You studied.
A little bit. I'll tell you, though, we were joking before we came on the show about, I read your awards list, and it read like a Stepford Wives resume. I mean, that's incredible how you've done all this stuff.
I love doing public service stuff. I like being involved in the community, and probably said yes too many times.
Yeah.
And so you get recognized when you do a lot of stuff in the community, but you gotta find a balance.
Maybe one of my favorite things on here was Volleyball Hall of Fame.
That's a great thing in Holyoke. It really is.
How did you end up as an induction member, honorary chairperson here, 2006 Volleyball
Probably because we're a
Hall of
Holyoke business, to be honest with you, and we've always been very supportive of the Volleyball Hall of Fame.
Yep.
They do a great thing. They fight hard. Basketball, everybody knows, and it's in Springfield, and it's a great thing for the area. Volleyball is a great thing. It just needs a little help.
Sort of unsung hero.
It's kind of, they'll get there, though. I'm convinced they'll get there someday.
Volleyball's great.
And so they asked me to be involved with them and help them 1 year, and it was a great experience, meeting people from Japan and all over the world that year, and kind of getting the sense of the traditions, and it really was a highlight. It was a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it was fun. Everything else I sort of expected, Entrepreneur of the Year, and it just went on and on and on about that sort of stuff. And I wasn't really surprised by that, but the Volleyball Hall of Fame was really fun to read.
It's because I don't know how to say no.
Oh. Yeah, oh, now you probably will be embarrassed that I ask you this, but your accent. Tell me about your accent.
I'm not embarrassed. That's actually, it used to be great when I was single.
Because it's cute, right?
It is cute. It worked.
Yes.
But I win bets with my accent. I grew up speaking Spanish and German. English was my third language, and learned English in Britain.
Yes.
So I think the accent is a real combination, a little bit of American, a little English, the Spanish, and the German. So it's very hard to pinpoint where's this accent from.
Yeah, I always thought you were Austrian. Your parents were Austrian and German?
Mm-hmm. Austrian and German parents, correct.
So you got a little bit of that in there. So I'd like to say you have an American accent.
Yeah, I do. I'm a typical American.
Pot.
And I'm at home here, so I'm definitely a typical American.
Absolutely. So. It's a melting pot thing.
Yeah.
So in reading some of your work experience, or checking up on some of your work experience, and your staff is very helpful, by the way. I'm sure that you will.
Oh no!
I'm sure that you will say that they are very helpful. But
they're awesome, actually.
One of the things, I mean, I get it. You know, you're a great banquet hall, a great wedding. Everybody knows you for weddings and restaurants and all of that. But in reading your background, I saw Boston Chicken. Mm. Boston Chicken,
yeah,
65 stores. You managed 65 stores and started 3 of them. Tell me about Boston Chicken.
Boston Chicken was being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah?
It was all luck. I like to say I was smart, but I don't think so. Many people in the U.S. don't know this, but rotisserie chicken was really not popular in this country until Boston Chicken came around. And Boston Chicken came around in the late 80s. And being somebody that grew up outside of this country, I knew rotisserie chicken, and I fell in love with the concept.
Sure.
And I was one of the first franchisees, so they gave me the rights to Western Mass, and I opened up a store in East Lomero, opened up a store in Chicopee, and I opened up a store in Springfield.
Yep. Was that the one on Boston Road?
Yeah.
That didn't
yeah. Two of the 3 stores I opened up are still in business today.
Yes. Yep.
And Boston Chicken made a lot of mistakes back then, but they were in my favor.
They have yummy chicken.
They have great chicken.
I don't think there's any disputing. They have great chicken, yep.
But financially, there was not a very well-managed company in the early 90s.
Yes.
And as they were trying to grow their company the wrong way, they were buying franchisees like me out. They were really giving us very good money to sell them the stores to the corporation.
Sure.
And that worked in my favor. That was my first break, my first real break, and that's the money I used to start the Log Cabin back then.
I suspected that. That's great. Okay, back to thanks for the Boston Chicken digress. I just thought I was fascinated by that.
I still stop at Boston Chicken. When I'm in Boston, or when I'm on the Pike and I'm on my way home, the one on the Pike in Ludlow.
Yes.
It's very convenient, and
Yep.
I always love just quickly stopping there and then I'll bring it home. And when the food is well prepared,
yes,
it's always delicious. It really is. It still is today.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the Delaney House, Log Cabin, and D Hotel. What came first, the chicken or the egg, and how did you grow it from there?
It was the Log Cabin. We bought the Log Cabin out of bankruptcy in '96. Mm-hmm. And kind of turned it into a banquet facility. We kind of looked at it at that time as a restaurant and quickly figured out that it would never make it as a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So did the financial analysis and decided to build a banquet facility. It was a really good move. It's still a good move today because people love that location.
The view is spectacular.
We can give somebody a very individual experience, an amazing experience, a high quality experience in a location that's hard to duplicate.
Yes.
And the fact that the location is hard to duplicate is kind of one of the things that keeps us in business.
Right.
And that was our first business. And we bought the Delaney House a few years later, also out of bankruptcy, and have been running that for a while. We really bought the Delaney House because we thought it would be a great additional banquet facility, and we quickly kind of learned and made a few mistakes along the way, but it's a great restaurant. It's actually 2 great restaurants. We have 2 restaurants in the Delaney House.
Yes.
And today we're very successful and very well supported, mainly because we run it mostly as a restaurant and not as a banquet facility, even though it has a great banquet room in it.
I'm thinking that you were at one point voted by The Advocate as the most romantic restaurant. I don't know whether that was Log Cabin or Delaney.
No, that's Delaney.
That was Delaney.
That's Delaney, yes.
And then
it's a great place, though. It's a great place to have a nice dinner. Yeah.
It is a great place. And there's a little fireplace, and then the Mick Lounge where you have entertainment, and the Raw Bar.
It's casual.
And the breakfast, the brunch.
The old Delaney House was very formal. For anybody that remembers, you had to, if you didn't bring a suit or if you didn't bring a jacket
Right.
with you, the owner would hand you the jacket.
Yeah.
And he was extremely successful, and it was the right concept back then. We learned in our process with the Delaney House, and it was a learned process. We didn't do this on day one, but we learned that casual, good American fare, a little Irish flair into the mix, that's been our key to success.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and certainly you've been very, very successful. We want to get into this a little bit deeper about the catering, and I have to ask you about weddings because, my gosh, you can't talk about Delaney and Log Cabin without talking about weddings.
That's our core business, and we love doing weddings.
Yeah. So we're going to take a little bit break. A little bit break.
A little bit break.
We're going to take a little break. When we come back, a little bit break. When we come back, we'll talk more about weddings and anything else you want to talk about.
So the accent is contagious?
Apparently the accent's contagious. My guest today is Peter Rosskothen from Delaney House, Log Cabin, and D Hotel. We'll be back in a moment.
Underwriting for the Money Doctor Show is provided by Ryan and Casey Liquors, Main Street, Greenfield. Exploring the world, one glass at a time. West County Equipment Rental of Shelburne. Daily, weekly, monthly rentals. 625-6463 or on the web at westcountyequipment.com. Weld Communications, Marketing and Publicity. Helping businesses spread the word in the Pioneer Valley and beyond. www.weldwords.com.
Welcome back to The Money Doctor. I'm Dr. Frances Rayam, and I'm speaking today with Peter Rosskothen from the Delaney House, Log Cabin, and D Hotel. So welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. So thanks for doing this. I know it's a little drive out here, and you're busier than busy can be, especially at this time of year. I can't have you on and not talk about weddings. Weddings. Do you like to do weddings? Are they a pain in the neck? I mean, what happens with weddings? And will you tell me the truth?
I'll tell you the truth. It's by far the most enjoyable part. The feeling that everybody has that is involved in a wedding. I don't care if you're in the kitchen or if you're the janitor, whoever you are. That feeling you have of satisfaction when that couple leaves, and if you made them happy, which hopefully you always do, it's a great feeling. Nothing beats that feeling. Yeah. You get that feeling in a smaller way with a diner or any other event, but you really, really get it in a wedding.
Yeah. All their hopes are hanging on that one day.
I ran into a mother of a bride that we just did the wedding for a couple of weeks ago yesterday. And I get this hug. And that's what, I mean, you want to make money and all of that, but that feeling, that hug, that's really cool.
Well, and I certainly can't talk about weddings without talking about your staff. I mean, you can't pull this off on your own. Tell me about your staff.
Now, there's no business that runs without a team, and we have a really good team. We're very lucky because our team has been with us, and a lot of them have been with us for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
yes.
That really makes it work. And we got a culture that everybody contributes with, that it's a service-driven culture. It's making it right kind of a culture. Mm-hmm. Take care of the guest, and I could be here for hours just talking about our staff, and I know everybody you interview probably says the same thing, but we have...
No, actually, I don't ask most people about their staff.
We couldn't do it without people. It's the final connection, you know. There's a big team of people trying to get everything organized,
right.
And then there's the staff making it happen all the time, and very proud of them.
Well, and you've had much less turnover than I think a lot of places have, particularly in the restaurant or catering or banquet business. I'm thinking of, is there a waitress there named Barbara who's been there forever? Is her name Barbara?
Barbara is one of our waitresses at the Delaney House, and I think she's been through 3 or 4 owners at the Delaney House with us now for 14 years.
Yes.
She's an amazing professional.
Yeah, she really
is an amazing professional. So,
if she's on and I'm there for dinner, I look to see if I can have her as my waitress. She's terrific. Yeah. And of course, I can't do the show without mentioning Bill DiPietro, my friend Bill DiPietro, who works there as well and has for quite some time, I'm sure.
He's one of those people, and he's a gentleman. I'm sure you know what I mean. He's always a gentleman.
He is a gentleman, yeah.
But he's one of those people that is all about the customer as well, and it's the kind of people we want on our team.
Yes, yeah. So how many people do you employ?
It really depends on the time of the year, but about 250 to 300.
Wow. That's a lot of people to manage.
It is a few people, yes.
That is a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you do the weddings, you have the whole banquet facility, you have the restaurants going, and you do catering. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to bring that show on the road and cater.
Well, catering is a way to utilize, from the business perspective, it's a way to utilize a team and infrastructure and do one more avenue of service. It's not different than doing an event at the Rosskothen or at the Delaney House. It's also a way of responding to trends. There is a growing trend of people trying to find individual locations.
Okay.
And the Rosskothen is an individual location, but a lot of people have seen it. The Delaney House is an amazing building, and not as many people have seen it, but people have seen it. So catering is a way for us to, if those two facilities don't satisfy someone, but they want to work with our team, catering is a way to do that.
Favorite story about catering? The most interesting place you've been, or funny story? You laughed immediately. What is it?
Catering is always one of those things, oh my God, what did I forget today?
Yeah?
So you always, the best catering managers are the ones that are really thorough planners. And the worst ones obviously are the ones that don't, and then you're running around. I'll tell you a story from 2 days ago because I'm still laughing. We were short lobster mac and cheese for a job.
Lobster mac and cheese?
Yeah.
You're famous for lobster macaroni
So
and
I'm
cheese.
carrying it on my shoulders because it was quite heavy, the pan.
Oh,
and
no.
I did not realize that the thing was leaking. And lobster mac and cheese has an awful lot of non-good to eat things. It's delicious, but it's not healthy.
That's right, they taste great.
And if that leaks all over your pants or whatever, those stains are kind of hard to get out, and that's kind of a typical catering story. But honestly, you have great experiences with catering. We did a wedding at a vineyard the other day.
Oh, nice.
And you don't think of Western Mass that way, but there's a few little vineyards in Western Mass.
Yes,
and
there are.
There's a really pretty one that we did this wedding at in Southampton. And you almost feel like you were in Napa.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And you kind of for a second think about it. It's like, I'm in Western Mass. I'm actually looking at the Rosskothen up there.
Wow.
So catering is kind of cool. There's story after story in catering, but most of them are dealing with the unknown of being on the road.
That's pretty cool, though, that you're at a vineyard looking at Rosskothen. I have this image in my head of the space team when they leave the shuttle and they're on the they're outside the shuttle and they're
Slightly
on the moon
different
and they're looking at
altitudes
something
here.
else back. That's can I ever go home again? You know? So yeah, that's interesting. So you've catered the whole time you've had these restaurants, or is this
No, it's been about a 5-year venture. We needed the vehicles and things to do that. This year we acquired a kitchen trailer, which has become one of our most popular catering things. We can take a kitchen anywhere and cook whatever menu you want there.
My house, 6 o'clock.
Anytime.
Can you get it there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually busy at the Big E right now, but we'll figure that one out.
Of course it is. Oh my gosh, let's see. Talk to me about the hotel. I mean, I don't know which way to turn. You have so many irons in the fire, but
yeah, they're
tell
all
me
in
about
one
the
area,
hotel.
though.
They are all in one area.
And that's probably the only thing that we really are focused on. We're not outside of our area. It feels like we have a lot, but it's all in really a very small area, and it's hands-on.
You do one thing, you do it really well. You're just doing it in 3 places.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
You said it better than I could have said it. But thanks for the doing well. That's a compliment. But,
you do.
But we want our team really engaged, and we want our managers and my partner really engaged in a day-to-day activity, and that's one of the reasons we're really close. The hotel didn't belong to us. It's attached to the Delaney House.
Right.
It really was a frustrating deal for us because we like operating at specific levels, and the hotel wasn't at our level. And we finally convinced the former owner to sell it to us, and we took away the franchise, turned it into a privately run hotel, working in pretty much there into turning it into a boutique hotel. You get very individual touches in that hotel right now. Amazing breakfast. Every room has been redone. Very proud of it. And in Western Mass, most hotels are chain hotels, and we really like the fact that we offer a non-chain individual hotel. My wife is the manager. She's on site all the time. She's working really hard at making each experience an individual experience.
That's Linda.
Yeah,
right?
that's Linda.
Speaking of your wife, how old are your daughters?
That's personal information, you know.
Well, let me say this. Are your daughters grown, and do they work in your industry at all?
22 and 19, neither one of them has an interest in staying in the industry.
Okay.
One loves taking care of children with disabilities, and that's what she's going to school for.
Oh, that's great.
And the other one is on her way to become a clinical psychologist.
Wow, wonderful. Now, did you have anything to do with this? Both of your kids have gone into service industries, but not in the
The
food
only thing I
service.
have to do with that is
People
paying for the
service.
education.
Well, but you know what? Maybe though, people service. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both looking to do things that help individuals.
I think honestly, when I talk to my daughters, and it's no different than when I have a chance to talk to people that are interested in this career, the one thing that they don't like about my lifestyle is that I'm not around on a regular basis when other people are off. And I think when you're in a hospitality business, you love the business, but you need to
Right.
realize that your Friday nights and Saturdays are work days, and your Mondays
Right.
and sometimes your weekdays are your
Yeah.
off days.
It's true of anybody in any sort of entertainment industry or anything like that.
It's a commitment you make, and you make it because you have a passion, but it's a commitment you make.
Right. That's when
Yeah.
the money is there. That's when people need you, and
Yeah, and how can you run a hospitality business if you're not there when it's busy?
you can't. You
Yeah.
really can't. Yeah. Back to the hotel for just a moment. Wait, are you allowed to say what chain owned it before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was Country Inn and Suites,
Right.
and we've turned it into the D Hotel and Suites. And I told you the reasoning for that. So
The reason I ask that is because you worked many years ago, I'm sure, maybe not all that many, but for Holiday Inn.
yes,
So did that come into play for you here when you started looking at this hotel? I mean, you went to school for finance. You didn't. I mean, you did come back and do restaurant and hotel management as
and
well.
my first job ever was in a hotel.
Yeah, so-
I've had hotels in my blood forever. It did come to play, but I think we're learning as we have developed the management style of the hotel. One of the good things that some of the advisors that we have involved with us are telling us is that we also are looking at the hotel from the non-hotel perspective. And so we're coming up with unique things. You know, we got a package, we call it Have a Bite, Stay the Night. And we're tying the restaurants into the hotel.
I like that. Have a
It's a
bite, stay
really
the night. It's cute.
great deal. And so if you make a reservation under that package, you get a bottle of champagne, you get strawberries, you get dinner next door. We're looking at it from a slightly different angle than some of the chains usually look at things. And I'm hearing that's a good thing. The frustrating thing with a hotel that I'm getting used to is every hotel changes rates every day, and that's really
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, in a restaurant business, we say something costs this much, and this is what I'm going to sell it for. And you stick to that formula until the costs catch up, and then you change it. But in a
think
hotel, you manage in supply and demand, and that's the only thing I'm still working at getting used to.
If you think it's frustrating for you, step outside the box and try and rent a hotel room somewhere, because one time you rent it, it's X number of dollars, the next time it's I hate that. I wish a hotel would just say, this is how much our rooms are,
yeah.
365 days a year.
As an owner of a hotel, I 100% agree with you, but you got to play the game, and it's a frustrating game to play.
I don't know, you could have a whole marketing campaign about that. We're the only ones who don't change our rates. I remember like Motel 6 or whatever started out with that $29.95 or $39.95, but then you see the signs outside and they say $69.95, $99.95. It changes every day, like you said. I don't know how you stay on top of that.
Yeah, you just work it and work it and work it, and it's supply and demand. And somebody asked me the other day, says, what's the best time to book a hotel room? And I think you don't want to book it too far in advance because the rate is going to be too high, and you don't want to book it too close to the date unless the hotel is really empty because the rate is going to be high too. So you want to find the in between.
Right.
In Western Mass, that magical time is about 2 weeks. So if you need a room in Western Mass, book it about 2 weeks out, and you probably get the best rate you're going to get for that room.
You heard it here, folks. My guest today is Peter Rosskothen from the Delaney House Log Cabin and D Hotel. You mentioned supply and demand. Okay, community involvement. I was reading your community involvement list, and it's lengthy. And I know, off camera we were talking about this a bit, where you said, "Oh, I've had to pull back a little bit." Tell me why you like to be involved in community, and what you can still do, what you find time to do, and how that works in your world.
Well, the main reason to be involved in community for me is I believe community is what supports the business. So it's a way to kind of give back. And it sounds corny, but it's probably the most honest, straightforward answer that I can give you on that. Finding the balance is where the next issue comes in. It's like, okay, how much does the business need me? How much does my family need me? And then what's left over? And so I'm trying really hard to find that balance. I do a few things right now that I'm really enjoying. Probably my main involvement these days is with the Greater Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is a bureau that covers the 3 counties.
Yeah.
And I just finished being the chair of the board, but I'm very involved in a casino deal right now. I'm working very hard in making sure that the casino is a smart thing for the entire region, not just the place where it's going to go.
Yep.
And so that's my project of the moment, and I'm enjoying it.
That's cool. Well, I don't want to get off on too much about the casino, but do you have personal feelings you want to share about the casino?
The reason I'm involved in this project on the casino side is because I'm fairly neutral, and I really mean that. I mean, obviously you have feelings one way or another and concerns, but I want the casino to happen, and I want it to happen where it benefits the entire region and doesn't become an obstacle to other businesses in the region.
Right.
And so that's kind of my mission.
It's certainly been controversial to say the very least, in any area that they've talked about putting a casino in.
It's not an easy deal. It's a major investment. When you talk to the casino folks, everybody has their hand out, and that's the wrong angle as well. Again, my approach is, what's the partnership that a casino can create, not just with the community it's living in, but with the entire region. And if we find the right answer, I'll let you know.
Okay. Okay. What about food trends? There's always this changing food trend things. Like, I remember just a few years ago in our area, nobody ate sushi.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, everybody wants sushi.
Some great sushi places.
There are some great sushi places.
I think the biggest trend in food that I find really interesting is that old-fashioned, simple items have become fancy, and you can charge a lot of money for them.
Give me an example.
Meatloaf,
Meatloaf. Wow, that's a great example.
Meatloaf used to be the meal that you would make at home, it's inexpensive, and now it's you find it, and it's really a fancy thing.
Designer meatloaf.
Yeah. Talk about sliders. I mean,
sliders,
you pay a fortune for certain sliders. It really isn't expensive to make. It's just trendy to have some of those things. Short ribs. I mean, the short ribs. You got to cook them the right way, but it's not a complicated, expensive ingredient. It's just something you got to prepare properly, and it's trendy. It's stuff that you used to cook at home that has come around to the restaurant business.
So it sounds to me like comfort food is actually still a trend. It never goes away, but
the food industry is still growing.
Up a little.
You read about any magazine, anybody tells you that the restaurants and food industry is growing, and has to do with couples and families not having time to cook. And there's no doubt in my mind that it's not just a pleasure to go out anymore. It's just part of what I need to do. And so comfort food plays into that.
That's cool. I can't end the show, of course, without saying that the Log Cabin in Delaney, or somehow this whole conglomeration of restaurants that you've put under your umbrella, have been voted as the best place to have a wedding year after year. 11 years, 14 years in a row by the Advocate. I mean, the list could go on and on. But if people want to get in touch with you, they're thinking about having their wedding, they're thinking about having dinner there, they're thinking about staying at the hotel, is there one number they can call, or how do they reach you?
413-535-5077.
Thank you very much, Peter.
It's a real pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me, Peter Rosskothen. I'm Dr. Rayam. Thanks for watching another episode of The Money Doctor. Until our next chat, Peter and I will remind you, keep it positive.
There's a better life if I could be debt free, but all my money is a mystery. I was feeling overwhelmed and it was wearing thin when I knocked on the door and heard the doctor's in. Oh, the doctor's in, the doctor's in. She got the right prescription to help you win. Oh, the doctor's in, the money doctor's in.